Anal natrach, urfas betad, dochiel dienle. Anal natrach, urfas betad, dochiel dienle. Anal natrach, urfas betad, dochiel dienle.
Anal natrach, urfas betad, dochiel dienle. Anal natrach, urfas betad, dochiel dienle. Anal natrach, urfas betad, dochiel dienle.
Good morning, or good evening, rather.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, good evening. Yes, thank you. Hello, Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu. How have you been?
That's a longer question. That's a longer question. I think that's a whole nother session in
All
itself.
right, let's skip that one for now.
But yeah. Anyways, yeah. So
well, I'm taking a much needed break from social media.
I saw that.
So
yeah.
I will be back, but I might take a month off or 2 months off, who knows. Need to focus a bit more on meat space and you know being present and
in the real world.
In the real world.
As it were.
Things are definitely happening in the real world. So that's why I want to be for a bit. Social media is fine, but
need to take a break from it.
Just need to take a break.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So, I really love your topic, by the way, and I'm surprised you haven't discussed this before.
Previously. Yeah.
Kotadama or Kotadama.
Yeah, it's Kotadama. Yeah.
Maybe do you want to introduce the topic and then why you chose it, and then maybe just explain what your questions or ideas, thoughts about it are?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Should we actually say Nembutsu really quickly? Some proper just remembering to do that. So
all right. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Excellent. Thank you. Just always a good way to start.
For sure. By the way, I didn't actually end up going to the social today. I had a bit of a change of plans. I'm actually going to Santa Barbara next weekend, and then I'm going to go on probably two weeks from now. They have it every so often. They also have a Shotsuki service, so with the Shoshinge and all of that.
Excellent. Well, that's great. Yeah, no, it's good. I was glad to hear that you were getting involved in that. Is that at the local church that you?
Yeah. It's about a 11-minute drive from where I live.
Yeah, no. Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful, historic,
more convenient.
temple.
That's great.
With everything. It's 50 plus years old. In an area where there used to be a large Japanese American community. As they were a lot of agriculture in this area, but in that town there's actually it's called Masatani's Market, so it was owned by a Japanese family, and now it's actually more Hispanic community there.
Sorry, can you say that last bit? I couldn't.
Yeah, no, it's more of the Hispanic community that lives there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I used to,
Yeah.
especially used to have a large Japanese.
Cool. No, excellent. That's proper. It's when you say local temple, it's actually
It's actually local.
a local,
And
yeah,
I went
local,
to their Obon
local temple.
festival in Santa Maria too. I think I posted some pictures of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
you did, yeah.
and that was a nice event.
Excellent.
Who knows? Maybe I'll
That's good.
volunteer next year.
No, what a great thing to have local and to be able to get involved in a community, face to face like that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Fantastic.
not everybody has that.
No. Yeah. More chance of it definitely in California and Hawaii than
Mm.
I think anywhere else in the States anyway. Although there is one in New Jersey. There's a temple,
Yeah, there's a
Jodo
few.
Shinshu temple in New Jersey,
There's ones
and
in there's one in New
New
York.
York, a couple in New York, isn't there? Isn't there? So I thought there was a couple in New York, but anyway.
Probably.
Anyway, so yes, speaking of Japanese culture, my topic that I wanted to raise
Yeah.
is because this was in the past something that I came across, and it caused me to have doubts, or not caused me to have doubts. It further entrenched doubts I already had. Was what was some doubts I already had. Um, not just about Jodo Shinshu, but about Nichiren Tendai and Tendai or Tiantai Buddhism, which I was there was a point where I was kind of investigating, exploring all at once. Side by side, and in both of those, in all three of those traditions, I should say, I kind of do consider the Nichiren tradition part of, in a way, the Tendai tradition, although Tendai Buddhists would probably not agree
Yeah,
with
well,
me,
you could consider
the
Pure Land to be,
part of
Jodo
Tendai.
Shinshu to be part.
Yeah,
It's not a part of Tendai,
yeah,
but it's a spin-off.
the spin-off,
The
definitely spin-off.
founders of the Kamakura,
Yeah,
Nichiren and
yeah,
Shinran and Honen, they all
yeah,
came from Tendai. So,
yeah, exactly, from Mount Tehi, yeah, and
yeah.
Tendai and this, yeah. So, um, anyway, so in all of those traditions, well, particularly Nichiren Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, obviously, for the Nichiren Buddhists, it was the Daimoku is very prominent, important, very, very major importance, and in obviously Jodo Shinshu, so is the Nembutsu. And so the topic, or I'll share my screen actually, and then we can have a look at that. Is in at some point in my searching and kind of internet explorations around Buddhism and Nichiren Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, and actually some other traditions I was exploring that were Buddhist influenced, I guess you would say. I came across the Kotadama. Yeah, Kotadama. Which refers to the Japanese belief that I'm just going to read: the mystical powers dwell in words and names. English translations include soul of language, spirit of language, power word, magic word, and sacred sound. The notion of Kotadama presupposes that sounds can magically affect objects, and that the ritual word usages can influence the environment, body, mind, and soul. Some interpret the belief as a discovery in vibratory commands. Some interpret the belief as the discovery of vibratory command words that have that can. I'm not sure. This sentence seems a bit. Anyway, so some interpret the belief that the discovery of vibratory command words that they have that can affect physiology in the mind. So I think they're just trying to say,
Yeah.
it's just it's a
So
major typo there.
yeah, what's interesting
Anyway,
too is
and so what I wanted to say, first of all, the first thing that came to mind and comes to mind now is obviously this is it's a very uh uh Shinto sounding kind of a thing a little bit.
Shinto.
Shinto, sorry, Shinto, sorry,
Yeah,
Shinto.
yeah.
Sorry. I said
Yes.
Shintao. Sorry, I meant Shinto. Yeah, Shinto sounding kind of belief or
Yes. Japanese
approach or
folk religion.
idea. Yeah. Um, and so at the time, I still had my, and until even recent years, my sort of skeptical, that those skeptical secular kinds of doubts and questions that I had about Buddhism and the specific traditions I was investigating were definitely increased when I stumbled upon this at the
How
time.
so?
In the sense that it was like, well, are these things actually Buddhist? The first thing that was one of my, is this, and
You'll have to be more
with
specific.
I
So
should say
are what saying?
oh sorry, yeah, sorry. So
Yeah.
the emphasis on I should say the emphases on the daimoku or the
Mhm.
nembutsu or other similar things.
Yeah.
So it was twofold. It was on the one hand, how much of that emphasis is actually from coming from a Buddhist kind of tradition, and also
Mm.
how much of
Yeah.
it is kind of
Interesting
superstition was a
question.
kind of how much of that of a kind of superstitiousness
Uh-huh.
influenced these Buddhist, Nichiren Buddhism
Yeah.
and Pure Land Buddhism, or I should say
Yeah.
Jodo Shinshu Buddhism.
Yeah.
And
Or vice versa, right? Because the culture, it
yeah,
always kind of tends to
yep,
go both ways.
yeah. So with those with the skeptical secular beliefs that were very strong at the time, when I stumbled on this, I just thought, oh no, is this just something that's influenced by superstition? And do you see what I mean? Now my approach is very different. Now I clearly see in these very traditions that it made me doubtful of, I can see teachings about similar such things and in Buddhism in general. So it wasn't, do you know what I mean? So the Buddhist part is not an issue. I can kind of see in a Buddhist way some facsimile of this notion in there. But the skeptic in me,
Well, it's
sorry.
okay. Yeah.
And also my skeptical beliefs in more recent, even though they were continuing to be fairly strong in even in recent years, have much
Mm-hmm.
lessened through me. Amida's working through our Dharma dialoguing, where they're
Well,
not as,
I don't know
yeah,
how much they've lessened. I think you and I
yeah,
are both, modern people living in a
yeah,
postmodern secular world, and that's the mindset we have. So
yeah.
whatever lessening
Well,
of
what I
that
mean
is
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 that
not.
it doesn't seem to be as something as prominent in my uh
I think what you're trying to
as it
say is that
was.
it isn't a problem.
Right, exactly. exactly.
There we go.
It's not an issue. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
not
because
really
it
an issue.
isn't. It doesn't. Yeah, it's not an issue.
And before
Um,
it kind of was. And
yeah.
so there was a time where this was very, coming across this didn't help. It's like I
Yeah.
wish I hadn't seen it,
Well,
you know.
and
But
this
now
is,
it now
number
it's
one, it's fascinating, and number
yeah.
two, it's related to language, and these kinds of beliefs are common to almost all pre-modern systems of belief. I mean, language itself is almost universally regarded as magical in some way, and that's where the whole ideas of I mean, I can't even think of a religion in which language isn't, in some sense or in some way or in some context, considered, sacred, right? So in religion, it's a human thing, right? I mean, it arose, historical context of, from the earliest discoveries. Oh, we can open our mouths and sounds come out, and and from there, I mean, everything has evolved since. So it's no surprise that there would be a similar concept in Japan, and also in Buddhism too. So there's like Vajrayana has a lot more of this, but in Shingon, but the use of mantras and so on, and that all comes from Indian culture, which, surprise, surprise, the same idea, same similar idea, right, is here in Kotadama. And I mean, almost every culture believes that names are powerful. It believes that if you can, in some traditions, you wouldn't necessarily even give your name to someone. You'd have a different name because if someone knew your name, they could have power over you, through some sort of magical means. Now, is that all superstition to us today? Yeah, of course it is. I doubt there's many modern Japanese people even who would have a literal belief in this Kotodama unless they're like living out in the middle of nowhere. But we can reinterpret this in different ways. It's, I would say one thing we were discussing in one of our conversations was the symbolism of language, right? Like the meaning is not the words have meaning. The meaning is not the words, and the finger pointing to the moon. The truth is that language is an essential part of human experience. So any kind of faith tradition is going to be dealing with language as a vehicle for communication of truth. And ultimately, even though truth transcends language, we still need the finger pointing us there, right? So that's just my thought on this. I mean, I think it's interesting from a point of view of maybe comparative, uh, anthropology and in the study of, that sort of thing. And I don't know, maybe in Shinto, this is, an idea as well, because Shinto, as you know, is a sort of shamanic tradition, folk religion that, surprise, surprise, has similar ideas about sacred things and sacred names and so on. As actually, as a lot of North American native, because the Japanese and the North American Indians are related. They both came from the Mongolian plain and Siberia, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's even people that consider them in some sense Asian, Asian, and kind of a branch of Asian, East Asian or Asiatic kind of peoples. But because there's so many similarities, especially see in different Buddhist kind of indigenous Buddhist cultures in various
Yeah.
places. There's a lot. I just, the music, the sounds of things, I mean, obviously any I suppose any shamanic cultures are going to share similar traits, I guess. But there's a definite there's another level of similarity between kind of some of the
Mm.
Buddhist indigenous kind of cultures and North American, some of the North American cultures.
Yeah, and I mean, we're related. Well, we speaking broadly. If you come from a Caucasian background, then you're related to Indians, Indo, Indo-European.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
We're all related ultimately to, the first uh, Homo sapiens in Africa or wherever it was.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so what um I just thought I don't know. It was just one of those things I never raised in all the years that it had that doubt was there, or I just had it in the back of my mind. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems like since that time, even though I haven't raised it in Dharma dialogue, it's been sort of sorted out. A lot of the doubt or barrier or thing, whatever it was that added to in terms of my doubts or questions or barriers has sort of been
Yeah.
sorted out, with that water on stone kind of Amida activity,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like, and the course of just my other Dharma dialoguing, um, it just seems like I don't know. I don't. It doesn't. In fact, it actually in now it's kind of flipped. This kind of thing actually conf is. I find it affirming in some ways. Of the Buddhist teaching in a sense. So, for instance, what I mean here is where where it talks about the notion of Kotadama presupposes the sounds can have magic. I'm not talking about magicality here, but anyway, presupposes that sounds can magically affect objects, and that ritual word usages can influence the environment, body, mind, and soul. So if you think about um, teachings in certain schools of Buddhism about how we all are in the we all in some way share the other 10 worlds. As a human, we all actually share traits of all the 10 worlds.
What do you
And
mean? Like all things are um independently
yes,
originated on
yeah, in that sense, but also in the sense that there'll be some aspect of us that um in some way is in the Deva realms, in
like
some way
Indra's net,
in the
basically
Asuric
from the.
realms, and in some way in the animal realm, and in some way in the ghosts and the hell realms, and we can predominantly be in one of those realms even as a human. Do you see what I mean? In some sense,
Yeah,
in a
I
human
don't know.
world
I've
kind of a
never
way.
heard of that one, but I do. I was wondering if maybe you're
So,
thinking or you're trying to refer
well,
to
there's
the
something I'm
Indra's
getting
net,
at.
maybe.
There's a further thing. So if we're in all those, and that basically whatever we're stuck in, let's just say we're in addiction. Okay. So we're more ghost realm like, that's going to emanate in various ways in a sense, not emanate, maybe not the right word, but is going to impact everything around us. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not just going to affect our life, it affects our environment, it affects people around us, it affects the
Right.
that mind state
Hmm.
affects everything. Do you see what I mean?
Well,
I'm
yeah,
basically talking about Ichen and Sanzen, 3,000 worlds in
Okay.
a single moment of time
Yeah. Yeah.
in the Nichiren and the Tendai tradition. So,
Right. Yeah. I'm not an expert on that
yeah.
doctrine. I have heard of it, but I don't really know
Anyway, that's just one way of
much. Yeah.
describing it. But yeah, it's essentially we don't just, it's not just because of because of dependent origination and because do you know what I mean? It affect everything does it does it not just by our words or a specific action, but just our existence. Do you see what I mean? In a
Mm.
sense, kind of
Hmm.
impacts
Yeah.
everything else.
Indra's net, I think, would be the
Yeah,
closest
yeah, yeah.
Buddhist concept that would be, I think, similar to that. So,
Yeah, so
given
it's
the
not
famous analogy in the,
yeah, yeah,
I think in the Keigongyo, the Avatamsaka Sutra, of Indra's net, where it's like picture it like a spider web with dewdrops,
yeah,
and in every dewdrop, all the other dewdrops are reflected. And what
yeah,
this is a symbolic of is the causes and conditions, right? And the inconceivable number of those that uh, contribute to our, existence. We imagine ourselves as an I, an independent
yeah, yeah,
entity, but in reality, we are dependently originated just like everything else is, nothing. And the
exactly.
more you think about this, I remember when I was taking a course on Indian philosophy at Sac State. I went to the California State University here, and had a really great professor. And this course covered, basically early Indian philosophy, all the way from the Upanishads and the Vedas up to later thinkers like um, Ramanuja and Shankara, Adi Shankara, and also Buddhist thinkers like Dignaga and other the major logicians of Mahayana Buddhism, who were obviously in dialogue and um, with other schools of Hindu thought and so on and so forth. But fascinating course. Um, but we were discussing Chinese philosophy, and one of the Buddhist philosophers in that time, I think maybe he was the founder of not Tendai, but different. I'll have to look it up. But and the analogy was that if you open the dictionary to a word and you read the definition, you find that the definition of the word you're looking at refers to other things. So
To define
you
it.
then have to go, and look up all of those words, assuming you don't know
Yeah.
what they are. And before you know it, you've actually read the entire dictionary.
And you might need
Now
another
think
one.
about it. Let's say you look up the definition of leaf. A leaf is a green chlorophyll containing energy plant that grows in a thin shape on a tree. Okay, let's assume you don't know what any of those words mean.
Yeah. You're
You're going to
looking
have
at
to look them up,
Yep.
right? And so every word in the dictionary, it turns out, is actually connected to every other word in the dictionary. There's nothing that exists on its
outside of that.
own
Yeah,
in
exactly.
an independent, an independent
Way.
way.
Yeah. Yep. Of itself. Yeah.
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 Of itself, yeah.
Yeah,
Shab-
exactly.
Sababa.
So in that sense, no, I'm not talking about anything magical here. But I think our mind state, our words, our actions can actually affect it. It affects the environment, it affects the body, it affects the mind, it affects society, it affects our families, it affects our, animal realms live, the if we have any animal realm companions living living with us, it affects everyone. It affects that all it all impacts everything, so in that sense,
Yeah, and
now I
this, of
just think,
course, this superstitious aspect, of course,
yeah,
is that words function as spells and,
or some kind
that
of,
sort of thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, of course, the Nimbutsu is very different from it's not a spell
exactly,
or
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
mantra, so to
yeah,
speak.
exactly. It's the call, isn't it? It's the call of Amida. It's
Yeah,
and it is Amida itself. It
it's
is the
great
Buddhist.
practice that embodies the virtues and working of the original
Yeah,
Amida's vow.
yeah.
Vow. Which is also the deepest, the most deeply held desire of every being, right?
Yes,
To be
exactly.
liberated, to be free of.
But even that sense, so not I'm not talking about magical powers or spells here or anything, obviously, but in the sense, so coming back to that, I was going to come back to the Nimbutsu now, and that's something that's there, I think that does affect things, in the world, if that being said does affect things, because that's the Buddha itself. That's the call of Amida. That's the lion's roar of Amida. That's the so that's a it comes from the Buddha realm, if you like, if I can even use that terminology. So that's gonna have a really good effect, I think, on things, not just me expressing gratitude through it, or just spontaneously saying it naturally and what impact it has on me, but I think it has an impact in the rest of the world in a really
Yeah,
good
well,
way,
there's a,
a good positive way.
um, it reminds me of, let's see, in Hymns of the Dharma Ages, maybe, where it is, where Shinran discusses, in a certain sutra, Amida appears and teaches the ninbutsu as a spell for eliminating the calamities stuff. So that would kind of be similar to, I think, what you're referring to.
Hmm. And I know
Trying to
there's
find it. Actually,
okay,
hold on.
yeah,
How much time do we have, by the way? Do we want
we
to do
have
another after
about eight
this?
minutes, about 8 minutes. Yeah, did you
Okay,
want
so
to
we
read
can
any
finish
more of
this.
this article, or
Well, so
I think
I'm
you get the
even
basic idea?
aware of, yeah, and it's, there's lots of similar concepts. I mean, it's basically that words have, magical power, which is an idea that's present in almost every,
Just every
culture.
culture in some, yeah,
Yeah,
at some point or in some way, yeah.
yeah.
So I'm certainly not, when I'm bringing it back and saying it's affirming, it's not some kind of magical aspect or some kind of power word, has in that sense, but
Hmm.
in these sort of Buddhist teachings, uh, now I don't really see it. I don't see, I don't
Well,
have the
actually,
same
there's in
difficulty with it.
Vajrayana, there is the use of spells and
Mm,
use of mantra and all of that stuff.
mm,
But that probably came from Hinduism. Uh, more like the influence of, according to some scholars, probably those ideas in Vajrayana may have come from um, tantric,
mm.
concepts that were in
The
Hinduism that sort of,
bone religion, BON.
not bone
No,
per se.
no,
Bone is a different thing.
mm,
That used to be thought, but that's not the case now. Actually,
anymore. Okay.
bone, I think, is now believed to have, originated
And
after
so it just kind of
Buddhism.
got incorporated in a kind of
Yeah, I'm
upaya,
talking about
in a kind
in
of in a kind of
India.
skill and means kind of way. It got incorporated into different. Vajrayana Buddhist
Yeah,
practices.
the Vajrayana
Kind of.
Buddhism is thought to be essentially a syncretism between Mahayana and tantric
Mm,
Hindu practices, which were extremely popular at the time.
mm.
So it's kind of
But
like
approached in
Buddhism
a
and
basically a Buddhist way, kind of seen in a interpreted in a kind of Buddhist way. Is that what you mean? Sort of. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Well, there's probably different levels. I mean, if you're looking at a master logician or philosopher like Dignaga, he probably has. It's like Nagarjuna, right? He had a very high,
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah.
of things, but at the same time, he, Buddhism always makes allowance for um, the sort of the understanding and practices of worldly. So, I mean, it's probably not as simple as that. It's probably there was many levels and layers. Sometimes with the syncretism, you have the phenomenon where, for example, in Japan, with the syncretism that occurred between Shinto and Buddhism, you had the folk beliefs of Japan with the gods and so on, and then you had people worshiping the gods as Buddhas and vice versa. It kind of
Yeah.
got mixed.
Yeah.
But at what level that syncretism occurred, it might have happened at a very popular level first,
Mm.
and then people like Zonkaku
Could be
philosophers maybe
saw it as an
explained
opportunity
it
for
through,
yeah.
well, the Buddha, the gods are actually the expression of the original vows of Buddhas, and so they're
Mm.
actually Buddhas. So,
Yeah.
but in the case of Vajrayana and the tantric and all of that, that's kind of beyond my
Yeah.
knowledge.
No.
I
No.
think you'd have to ask a scholar of Indian philosophy and history and
It just it seems like to
unravel
me
all that.
they could see the masters could see it as any of that kind of stuff as an opportunity for a kind of skill and means to further express the teaching or reinterpret it to see the true teaching
Yeah.
behind it or
Well, in Mahayana, I mean, you had so many different streams, so to speak, of Dharma kind of meandering in, and you
yeah.
had all of these different. I mean, just read the Mahayana sutras. I mean, they're all
Yeah.
different. They're all,
Yeah. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love that aspect of Buddhism
But I
too.
think I
But
think from a historical point of view, there's syncretism and influence in both ways of
yeah.
things, and that's always happening.
Yeah.
I think in Shinshu, any kind of uh, like prayer or attempt to make the world go the way I want it to through recitations and stuff
Mm.
like that would be regarded as a superstition and
Mm.
therefore a provisional thing. Provisional.
Mm.
It doesn't express the ultimate.
Ultimate. Yeah. Even in sort of Nichiren Buddhism, um, the people will, you know, it's almost like a skill and means, saying that a daimoku for certain purposes, for certain things. But I think the ultimate teaching is that it's just a skillful means, because what they're really chanting for is Buddhahood. The chant that is the expression of the desire for the aspiration for Buddhahood.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I think
yeah,
it depends on the sect
yeah,
because there's quite a range of
yeah, yeah,
beliefs within the Nichiren
yeah,
sort
that's for
of
sure. That's
schools.
true.
I mean, Soka Gakkai is kind of
Yeah,
chanted for new cars and benefits. I don't really know like um, what they teach exactly. A lot of people regard them as a whole. They're certainly a new religion.
Yeah.
Some people, but they have produced great Buddhist scholars and universities and lots of stuff. So
yeah, and it can be a doorway for people into the Dharma. So
yeah, or it can drive them away.
or it can,
Good.
yeah, but maybe that might help in the future, but anyway, but to get them to see other things. But anyway, anyway, that's I just am trying to say is that
Different conversation.
yeah, that's a different conversation. But yeah, anyway, I just the reason I raised it was quite a major, well, not as major a doubt as other things, but it had that, it was just like, oh no, now I've got this super, right. So hopefully you enjoyed the discussion. Got caught off there at the end, and I don't know if or when we're going to follow up on this subject at all. So I just want to kind of wrap up what I was saying at the end there. Is that when I came across this was over a decade ago, at least, I think. When I came across, at least over a decade, when I first came across Kotadama, up till a few years ago, my skeptical doubts, my sort of skeptical, so-called rational, critical reasoning doubts, so-called. We've been all over that, so I'm not going to go into that. But we're very strong at that time, and way more strong than just a few years ago. They were still strong, but like, this was like 10 years before that, and they were even stronger. So, and anyway, no, that was actually, sorry, that was about like 15 years ago or something when I came across this. Anyway, so, no, not that far back, about 12, 13 years maybe. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, at the time it did kind of reinforce some of my doubts about, like Nembutsu or Daimoku or different chanting practices in Buddhism, Buddha name chanting, Buddha remembrance, all those things. Because of this, I thought, and it did make me think, like Kyokan pointed out, of the same kind of lore in other cultures as well. And I thought, oh no, is this something like that? Is this something, is it just this kind of what I thought of as superstition at the time? Now I have a very different thinking about the whole Kotadama thing. I have a whole different take, different perception, different, but at the time it did increase my doubts. And this is one of those things, I never talked to anyone about this doubt. Not in that whole time. And this is a perfect example of a doubt that has been sorted or dealt with by Amida, by Amida's light, by Amida's working, by Amida's good from the past, by Amida's light that's just already been shining since beginningless time, and tailors itself, tunes itself to each individual being. And this is an occasion where this is an example of how that worked with the clearing of the channels, that it's Amida's power, Amida's light directly clearing the channels of faith in this sense. It, of course, when doubts and questions and barriers to and calculative thinking are dealt with through Dharma dialogue and through deep listening and through deep reflection. Those are all Amida doing that. It's all Amida doing it anyway. But you know, in Dharma dialogue, it's part of what we're meant to be doing. It's part of what the path is. Part of our path is part of the process. And what I'm trying to say is, even in that part of the path of the Dharma dialogue, even though you're working with another person, it's still the power. It's still being enabled, empowered, and happening due to Amida's working light, good from the past, vow power, etc. But anyway, this is an example of just a direct, because there was no I did no Dharma dialogue on this particular subject until now. But the doubt, the question, the barrier that it, not that it presented, but that it reinforced, was dealt with already and directly by Amida. And I didn't say that completely outright in this episode, but I was trying to express that. I didn't quite ever get there. So I wanted to say that as this end bit to the video, since it got cut off anyway. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. I hope that you're on the path by Amida's empowerment. And thanks for watching. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabu, Namandabu.
Anal nathrach Urthvas bethud Dohiel dienve Anal nathrach Urthvas bethud Dohiel dienve.
Yes. Use it.
Anal nathrach
Oh, that's it. Oh, good. Oh, that's grand.